Okay, let's take a look at the winner's essay chosen from this week's collection of introductions from the draw. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So, it's the question about restoring old buildings. Do you agree or not that because they're too expensive, we should knock them all down and build new ones instead? That's it. Okay. So first things first, check for word count. Let's see what we've got. We need at least 250. Round about 300 is good. 274, okay, could be a little bit bigger. Round about 300 is good. You have about 12 to 14 sentences. Anything less, you might not be able to properly develop your main ideas. So that's what I would do. So, I've got the criteria. This is our modified version, the official and the public, and this is for teaching purposes only. In case of copyright issues, just had to mention that. So let's have a look. According to some, from, keep forgetting, changes, put them on, right. From an economic perspective, do you mean per perspective, or as in viewpoint? From an economic perspective, because prospective and perspective are not the same thing. Repairing and renovating the old structures, right. Why do you have a definite article here? You haven't introduced this idea, this noun phrase yet, so you don't need a definite article. That's only when you introduce something, so in terms of article use. So when you introduce something for the first time, I was walking down the street when a dog jumped out and started barking. I kicked the dog. Now we know what dog I'm talking about, and he ran away. So what's your article use? Renovating old structures, because old structures, it's an abstract noun, so we don't need an article there. Would not be invaluable. Invaluable means we can't do without it. That's not the same meaning. I don't think that's the word that you mean. Would not be value for money, would not be worthwhile, but not invaluable. And it can or could pose significant, what exactly, how can you pose expenditure? You can't pose significant expenditures. That doesn't collocate. Hence, some individuals, why is it always that some people, you don't have to say individuals, some people claim buildings should be destroyed and money should be better spent on constructing, again, article use, new ones. I strongly disagree with the statement for two main reasons. Are you going to tell me what they are in this introduction? You should do. It needs to be clear right from the start. Okay. Several disadvantages can be considered for. So, do you agree or disagree? So, you disagree that we should knock them down. So, you think that we should keep them and we should restore them, repair them. I think that's what you think. So, let me just get me straight, because you have several disadvantages. So, right. First, it's an opinion essay. It's not a discussion. It's not asking you, what does somebody else think? It's asking, what do you think? So, the question is, to what extent, right? How far do you agree or disagree that instead of restoring old buildings, we should knock them down and build new ones? So if you agree, we should knock them down. If you disagree, that means we should keep them. Okay? So I strongly disagree. Right? So, in other words, you think that we should restore them, because you disagree with the statement that we should knock them down and build some new ones. So therefore that means you agree that we should keep them. So now, why do you have several disadvantages can be considered for repairing old buildings? You can see my confusion. Several disadvantages. Shouldn't that be several advantages? Because you've just said that you disagree that we should knock them down, so you therefore agree we should keep them, we should fix them, so why do you have disadvantages? It seems to be counterintuitive. Okay. Can be considered for repairing old buildings. Firstly, the roadside building in the most cities. Why do you have this article? Don't need it. In most cities are usually stone structures. Roadside so what? Buildings, roadside buildings in most cities what, who, where, how, when, are usually stone. Well, they could be stone, but what buildings, where, what are you talking about? Representing the culture and heritage of that place. Well, again, it depends where you are. If you go into downtown Beijing, for example, or in Shanghai, you'll see brand new skyscrapers. You won't see any old buildings. So where? What are you talking about? Although many of them are in poor condition, and the restoration of them are costly, and why that structure, there's not a possessive restoration of them, and their restoration is costly. In my opinion, these structures are strongly attached to the history of city. Now, we can use the city. Now, we can use a definite article now because you've mentioned cities. So you're talking about buildings in a city. But this is basically what you've said. So there's not a lot of progression here because you've said these buildings represent culture and heritage, and you said they're strongly attached to the history of the city. So how is that different from that previous sentence? It's not really. So we don't really need all of this if your main idea is simply old buildings or structures are part of the history of a city and should be kept even though it's expensive. That's all that you need, your main idea. These two sentences are irrelevant and confusing. Okay, will also disappear in the city. Now, let's say, do you have an example now? For example, in Mashhad, the city centre, it doesn't involve. How does it involve many other historical buildings? Simply say it has. Has many old, and that's the American spelling. We do it CENTRE. UK. City centre has many old and historical buildings, and this is a popular destination for many tourists. But many projects have been striving to. Many projects have been. How can projects strive? They're not alive. They don't have agency. Have been striving. Many. How about developers, as in people, have been striving, and striving's a little bit too much. Striving? I don't think so. I've been trying to destroy. So that makes a bit more sense now. The developers have agency. Projects do not, so they cannot be doing anything. Now, this is a bit of a long sentence. So, for example, in Mashhad, my hometown, the city centre has many old and historical buildings. This is a popular destination for many tourists. Now, I would end that sentence there. And I would start with, however, instead of but for your contrast word. Many developers have been trying to destroy these buildings in order to build modern luxury apartments. So what? So what? You haven't connected that to anything. Really? Or have you? No. So let's go back again, right? To what extent do you agree or disagree that we should demolish old buildings and build new ones instead? Okay. So several advantages, but you only really mentioned one. So it's not kind of several, is it? Oh, I haven't seen any. So history of the city. Okay. which we don't want to disappear. Many old buildings. Okay, that's good. Destination. Many tourists. That's good. Trying to destroy his building in order to build more luxury apartments. And what? Where's the rest of the argument? That's not an argument. That's simply a statement. You need to connect this to the topic, which is why we should keep them. So, are you trying to say that if we destroy these buildings, no tourists will come, therefore we will lose income? That's what you need to say. In other side, you mean on the other hand. Now there is no other hand, because it's asking for your opinion, not what somebody else thinks. So how is there another hand? The question is, do you agree? Yes, I do, because I've got reason 1 and reason 2. Right? On the other hand, people think that those buildings are beyond repair. Well, it doesn't say beyond repair. Obviously, if a building's beyond repair, you knock it down because it's dangerous. It doesn't say that. Where does it say beyond repair? It simply says restoration, old buildings. Obviously, if they're beyond repair, they cannot be restored. And that's not what it's asking. So, should definitely be diminished, you mean demolish, because diminished is not the same, doesn't mean the same thing. Why have you included this? There's no need for this paragraph at all. It's not a discussion. It's not. It's saying, do you agree that because restoring old buildings is too expensive, we should knock them down and build new ones? Yes or no? That's what it's asking. It's not a discussion. So you disagree with this statement for 2 main reasons, but you haven't said what those 2 are. I don't think so. You've said several disadvantages. I presume you mean advantages. So firstly, they represent the heritage, and if they get rid of those, then your history and heritage will disappear. Well, that's one idea. That's not 2. That's not 2. And you've said here, there's lots of old buildings in my home town, but some developers have been tricked. So, have they succeeded? Have they built modern and luxury apartments? And if they have, what has been the consequence? You haven't said. So now, on the other hand, people think that those buildings, they are beyond repair, should definitely be demolished, new structures should be replaced and built in their place. Well, we know this because it's kind of here, it's in the topic, so why have you repeated that? Also, they believe that the maintenance of these buildings may not be necessary, and the expenditure can be of constructing new ones. You've just said the same thing twice. You've just said the same thing essentially twice. It is clear that every new building has its inherent cost and requires huge demands on various resources such as money, labour and building materials. So what? What does that have to do with, do you agree that we should knock them down? Because you said you disagree. Now you're talking about why some people think this. Well, it didn't ask you that. In conclusion, the old structures of buildings tell us, or can tell us, about culture, about the culture and history of the cities, some cities. Their maintenance and restorations can enhance and promote the reputation of the city. How's that a conclusion? Conclusions restate the topic and outline your 2 main ideas, where the essay went, and also you need to restate your opinion. You have not done so. So let's have a look at the scoring now, and we will see. Right, let's take a look. So Get me pen. Okay. Does it address all parts of a task? No. It doesn't. All parts of a prompt are appropriately addressed? No. Do you directly answer the question? No. Relevant, spotted ideas, well-developed position to the question? No. All parts of a task? Not really, because you look at both sides. It doesn't ask you to do. You say you'll give 2 reasons. You only give 1. Clear position? No, because you said what? There's disadvantages you'll get. So I've no idea what your real position is, because you have both sides, and then so it's not so easy. The examiner is going to have a lot of trouble in deciding what you actually mean. Overgeneralization? I think so. May lack focus? Well, they certainly do. Repeating the same thing over and over. Relevant main ideas? Not really. Supporting evidence? Not relevant. Insufficient, unclear, repetitive. Let's go down. Development format may be inappropriate. Well, yes, it's not a discussion. It's asking you, what do you think? Some main ideas, some repetition. I think there certainly is, as I've just said. So I think you're looking at, is it going to be 6? Is it going to be 5? Well, look, I'll tell you what, I'm in a generous mood. I'll make it 6. The examiner may not be so generous as I, because it doesn't address all the task. Inappropriate, because it doesn't ask you to look at both sides. Development, not very clear. Main ideas are limited, and repetition, I think that's fair. So examiner might give you 5. I'll give you 6 for the purpose of this, but maybe I shouldn't. Now, cohesion coherence. So let's have a look. Your paragraphing. Cohesion attracts no attention. Well, it certainly does, because on the other hand, message can be followed effortlessly. Well, I don't think it can. Logical sequence? No. Cohesion, the paragraphing's there, but okay. Clear central topic? Not really. Cohesive devices, logical sequence of information and ideas? Not really. Right. Repetition. I think it's fair to say we have a bit of repetition. Central topic, not always clear. I think that's pretty fair to say. Mechanical use of a cohesion. Well, when you're signposting, when you repeat the topic for sentence 1 and sentence 1 of the, what do you think? I mean, that is repetition. You're not showing a lot of progress there when you say the same thing several times. Mechanical use, cohesion between sentences, I think so. Examiner, is there lack of overall progression? I think so. Lack of referencing, repetitive, overuse, repetitive. Okay, I'm foolish. I give it 6. Examiner may not see it the same way. He may give it 5. I think it's between 5 and 6. So it's got some features of both, but for this purpose, I'll give it 6. Okay, vocabulary. Okay, do we have a wide range of vocabulary? Well, let's take a look. There's quite a lot of vocabulary that's used incorrectly. Is it used accurately? No, we have some errors. Rare errors, well, it's not that rare in the spelling. I didn't see any idiomatic items. Some inappropriacies. Yeah, I think that's quite fair to say. Perspective means something that is upcoming. Perspective, a particular viewpoint. Invaluable. Pose significant expenditures. That doesn't collocate. What else did I say? Striving instead of trying. Projects. Okay. Demolished, diminished. So I think vocab, we've got some appropriacies. Sometimes it's restricted range, some inaccuracy. I think 6 is fair, because there is some inaccuracy there. I think the way this is heading is going to be 6 all round, in fact. Okay, now what about the grammar? Let's take a look at that. Well, there seems to be quite so. How the grammar works is they count the number of sentences without a mistake. Okay, if we look at the criteria, here we go. Where are we? Minor errors, extremely rare. So here, yeah. Majority of sentences are error-free. A majority. Okay, so to be frequent, that will get you a 7. So if you've got 12 sentences or 14, and obviously, a majority, 8, 9, or frequent needs to be at least more than 50%. So let's count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I changed that into 8. It was a single sentence. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you wrote 12 because I broke one of your sentences up. So you need at least, what's the majority? Out of 12, it would have to be at least 7, 8. Frequency, at least 6. So we'll see. So missing article. That's one sentence. Okay. So we've got one sentence there. That's not a grammatical mistake. So we've got 2 sentences without a mistake. 2 sentences without a mistake. 2 sentences. 2 sentences without a mistake. So the grammar score will be pretty low, I think. Errors, 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 errors. They are frequent, in fact. 5. So some errors, they really reduce communication, flexibility. Again, I'm in a generous mood. Don't ask me why. 6, 6, 6, 6. So again, the examiner may give it 5, or they may, because the errors are frequent. It's only marginal, an article here or there, but it's still an error. So all told, 6. That was quite easy to calculate. 6, 6, 6, 6. Okay, I hope that helps. I hope you can see why I gave it that. I say the examiner may not be as generous, but that's why I would give this particular essay. Okay.